Good evening and welcome to Dog Talk. I'm Dan Camilleri.
And I'm Laura McKillop. We'd like to start by thanking Enduro for their ongoing support in bringing you our fortnightly Q&A. Tonight we're fortunate enough to be speaking with Nathan Carr from Tendera Working Dogs.
I would like to also, obviously, Enduro High Energy Food for Working Dogs with Real Kangaroo Meat being our main sponsor. We would also like to thank Kieran Weil from Keggers Livestock Services for jumping on as our minor sponsor. Sorry, talking a bit quick there. First week back, we're just getting into it. If anyone's in the southern part of New South Wales and need any livestock services, get on board Keggers Livestock Services on Facebook, and Kira will be able to set you out.
We are also looking for Daniel's.
I've just looked. I had 2 weeks off and I'm bugging. We're also looking for other minor sponsors. So if something that might be interest you, please don't hesitate to reach out and have a yarn with us. It'd be much appreciated if we can get a few people on board to support the show. That said, how you going, Nathan?
Yeah, good, mate. Yourself?
Good, thanks, mate. Sorry you had to listen to my yarn for a little bit there, my yak.
Blank space.
That's all good, mate.
Yeah,
that's fitting with Taylor Swift in town.
Yeah. went a bit weak in the head there, mate. Forgot what I was actually talking about.
All good.
Nah, a couple of weeks off, mate. A bit too relaxed, I think. But Nathan,
thanks. Get back in the swing of it.
Yeah, that's the go, I reckon. Mate, thanks for jumping on tonight. We just before I went away there, we had a pretty in-depth, cool conversation, and really loved your story and what you had to say about a few things. And mate, couldn't get you on quick enough. So thanks heaps for jumping on.
No, that's no worries at all. It's good. It's yeah, I'm glad you asked. It's something. It's a good show you got going on.
Thank you, appreciate it. We'll jump straight into it. Do you want to tell us a little bit about where you grew up and then sort of how you ended up where you are today?
Yeah, righto. Well, I grew up in town, and I basically got a lot of that story out back in 2000. I went up to Rocky B&S, and then that's where I met my wife, and she was actually a grazier's daughter from out of Dingo, and basically from there, that's where the sort of love of the land sort of come from. I had experiences of it when I was younger and really liked sort of land and stuff like that, but that's pretty much where it sort of come from. And then from there, yeah, it's all stemmed from there, going to their properties, and I soon sort of got into cattle in about 2001, I suppose, and I've always had dogs, but I got into working dogs then, and I had adjusted some country out at Mount Mee and Kilcoy and out that way. And then from there, we came up to Augie Plateau, which is about 40 k's outside Billawheeler, heading to Monte. And we've been here now for coming on to 19 years. So
we're nearly a local.
That's pretty much the long and short. Yeah, maybe next year, probably 20 years. I'm not sure of the
Yeah, and you're always been in Queensland, mate?
Yeah, we still. Yeah, mate. Yeah. Born and bred in Queensland.
You said you grew up in town. What town, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so out, where Redcliffe is.
Yep.
Out the northern suburbs of Brisbane.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good football team there.
But back then it wasn't as built up, so that's where I grew up.
You mentioned that you'd always had dogs
and muck around and some.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I had growing up as a kid, and then I had my sort of first border collie probably when I was about 22, I suppose. And I wasn't working stock with her, but I was training her on different things, and yeah, that the things that you could do with a dog was sort of got me sort of started on with dogs, and then when I moved to the land and realised how valuable dogs were, it went from there.
And did that once you moved on the land there? Was there someone that you took on as a mentor or that inspired you to get an extra mile?
Yeah, so at the start, it would have been me father-in-law and brother-in-law,
Yep.
and then sort of when I started getting more into the dog sorts of thing side of it, I done a few different schools and so on. But probably more recently, I sort of been looking for a different way that sort of appealed to me about training dogs. Sort of a style that I was looking for something different that I could relate to. And anyway, so about June last year, I went over to America for the MSSA finals over there. And I've been looking at posts of Joni Chitchen, and she's a really good dog trainer over there, and she does some quite remarkable stuff with the dogs, and her style really appealed to me. Anyway, I was lucky enough to while I was over there, I spent the week with her at the trial, and I was fortunate enough to go back to her place, and she was showing me a lot of things of dogs and what she does, and I'm still in contact with her now, and that's I can really see the impact of how she trains in the way that I'm training now. I've been getting a lot of light bulb moments, and what I do, and sort of looking at me dogs in a different way, as in sort of getting a bit more feel and learning how to read your dog a lot better, and sort of not taking a dog as a dog, but it's sort of it's another mind. It's just not a dog. And once you sort of get into that frame of mind, you can really see the difference in your dog and what you can get it to do.
And not having, obviously, did you have any connection with her prior to going over there?
A little bit, just from uh, texting, and I've had a couple of conversations with her. But it was really a last minute decision to go over there because I wanted to go over to the MSSA finals over there. It's sort of a big dog trial I have there. And when I looked at it to see when the date was, it was like, I looked at my phone, I was like, shit, that's in a week. And I just dropped everything sort of thing and booked a plane ticket and just left.
Why not
and got over there. Yeah, I just took a chance that she would be there, and lucky enough that she was. And sort of that dog trial goes for 6 days. It's a pretty big show over there. Their dog trials, like I have to thank a fella named Steve Wright that organises that trial over there. He was just so welcoming to me when he found out that I travelled all that way to come see his dog trial, and that they were really great and hospitable, and to learn their dog trials is sort of yeah, it's on a whole new level. Like they had at the sort of the peak of that trial, they had 4 arenas going at the same time. Every single arena had a commentator on it, and they had 85 people working for them.
Wow. That's unreal.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Have you been back to the
yeah,
States then?
it's the next level. No, I haven't. That was only probably 7 months ago.
Yeah, righto.
And not having, like, obviously speaking to, sorry, I forgot her name. What was Chechny? I forgot her first name. Joni. Not
Joni?
yeah, obviously having
Yep.
conversations, but not seeing how she trained the dogs before. What was it that? Why did you gravitate towards her? Like, what was it about her style that you went, like, I want to know more?
Just what she could do with the dogs. Like, what you would hardly see her move. She would talk softly, and the feel that she would get out of her dogs. Like, she would make a weak dog strong, make a strong dog with a lot of feel, and you couldn't tell the difference from what the dog was when she started. She just brings them all into line as the same, like a strong dog with lots of feel.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, that sort of blew me away. And she's a field trainer, so it's kind of hard for her to describe what she's doing. So it was good she does, but you really have to look more, like, and think outside of the square. And so that's sort of what the field training is for her. You really got to pay attention because her movements are so small, but makes such a difference and a reaction to the dog.
After that experience and seeing how she done things, and obviously that's changed your style a bit, and we'll have a yarn about that. But while you're over there, how many times did you think about dogs that you've had and probably moved on and gone, I probably could have done something with that particular dog?
Oh yeah, definitely, and I'll always admit to that. Like my earlier dogs, there, I could have most certainly bring out the best in them more than what I have. It was just basically lack of feel on my part. I always look in the mirror if there's something wrong with the dog. It's me. It's not the dog. It's my job to show the dog. Make my ideas his idea.
Yeah.
And then he enjoys what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And how do you go about that? What can you talk about some of the ways or techniques that you use to try and manipulate your dog to think that way?
Well, basically, it's pretty much some of the same tools that we use, but it's basically it's the way that you use the tools that you got. A bit of a now come up in my own head. It's like, let's just say you had a block of timber and you had a chisel and a hammer, and you've got a tradesman and a craftsman, and now the tradesman gets his chisel and hammer, and he has his wood chips coming flying out everywhere, and he makes like a doorstop sort of thing. And then you get the craftsman, same tools, same block of timber, and he finds the direction of the grain, and then he guides the chisel along and shaves off bits of timber and brings out the best in the timber and carves up a nice sculpture. Same tools, same block of wood, just used differently.
Yeah.
And it's basically sort of, yeah, it's really sort of really reading your dog and watching your dog and knowing how much pressure you're putting on the dog. It's all gets back to sort of pressure release, timing, being in the right place. It's your tone of voice. It's the volume of your voice. They all make huge differences. And depending on your dog, if it's say a light dog with not much confidence, well, you got to tread more carefully than a dog that's got lots of confidence. You sort of got to be able to that dog that doesn't have a lot of confidence talk more softly, move a bit more sort of slow, a bit more fluently, and make those gaps for that dog. And make it his idea to go through those gaps and not force him into doing it. And then that idea becomes his idea, and then you see him build their confidence up. Like, I work on 1%. If I can get 1% each day, you're going forwards.
Yeah. And what's it done with your relationship with your dogs as well?
Yeah, big difference. It's when you start treating your dog like, not like a dog, but one of your mates. Like, at the end of the day, they're doing a job for you. And if you had one of your workers or whatever, and you were up and in going, mate, why haven't you finished this yet? What sort of a job's this? Like, that's a pile of crap. You should have been finished by now. Like, he's going to get the shits with you, and he's probably going to go slower or tell you to jam it.
Yeah.
But if you come up to him and say, mate, you're doing a good job, but if you actually do this here, you'll probably get it done a little bit quicker and neater, and you encourage him, well, that's how you get the best out of your workers. I mean, you got to treat your dog the same way. He's your mate at the end of the day, and if you want to get the best out of him, that's how you treat him. And you just see a big difference in their attitude, and you can really tell if that dog's connecting with you.
Yeah, 100%. And you've worked a lot on your frustrations and slowing things down as well, and keeping the blood boiling at a decent temperature.
Oh, yeah, definitely. The cooler you are, the cooler they are. They are just a reflection of you. There's no two ways about it. So it's amazing the tone in your voice and the volume that really you can see it play a big difference in your dog. Like, if you're in tune with the dog and you're really watching your dog and his reactions and what pressure you're putting on the dog, it really comes out. But in saying that, like, you need to introduce your dog to pressure too. Like, that dog needs to be able to handle pressure. So, you introduce it to your dog and just get that 1% every day sort of thing out of him, and then you really see a difference. Like, the next day you might get 5% out of him or something, but if you get that 1%, well, I think you're on the right track.
Yeah. How do you introduce pressure then, and when would you start introducing it?
I'll probably start on like, when they're younger. I'm not going to sort of jam them too much. So, but I mean, you can take a pup in a round yard and just sit there with him like a young pup with the sheep in the round yard or something, and just have the sheep come up to you and just settle the pup and build him up that way as well. But as they sort of get a bit bigger, I sort of do a lot on the fence and sort of create that sort of gap for him to go in between the fence and then I sort of close the gap up as they're getting more confident and making them find the head.
Yeah.
And you mentioned like they have to find a head, and you mentioned earlier about like dogs that lack a bit of confidence. So it's really important for you to get your young dogs on the header stock.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the dogs I'm sort of breeding now are head dogs anyway, but you really want them to find the head sort of correctly and follow the head too a bit. So when that bloody sheep breaks out or whatever, that he's going to get to the head and not chasing it away.
And you find that the more you give those like lighter dogs the head, and the more times they turn it and they win those little conversations, those 1%ers really start to come along a lot quicker.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. If you're reading that dog and if that dog's enjoying himself, that's a key too. Like when you're doing these things, and that's the part of reading your dog. If you're making it so that dog's having some good wins, and you can change your tone a little bit, you can tell if a dog's having a good time. That's definitely a key thing as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mate, we talked about your dogs a little bit here. Do you remember your first dog?
Yeah, I do. She was the first border collie I had. Yeah, I can tell you. Yeah, she was pretty intelligent sort of dog. I remember when I was living in town with her. It was a quarter of an acre block. It wasn't real big, but anyway, when I was going to work, I'd come home and I'd see holes dug in the yard, and I'd go up to her and say, "Right, who's been digging these holes?" And you point at her paws because they'd be all dirty. I think it must have been a bit wet or whatever. So she had white socks, so they were all muddy. And the next day, so you fill the hole in. I came home the next day. There's a big hole there, and I went over to her, and her paws was clean as a whistle. They were white as, and I thought, how the hell did that happen? She actually went to a water bucket and washed her feet. Like just brainy dogs, and that sort of, I suppose, it got me into border collies. How much brains they got.
Did you work her?
Yeah, not on stock because I wasn't into cattle by then, and yeah, I overdid her. I probably spent too much time on her, and when she was the first. When I didn't know nothing about stock work then, but I could get her to do anything and whatever I wanted to do. And one day she just went, "No, I've had enough," and stopped. And that was it. I was like, "Yeah, right. There you go." I didn't know anything about bloody training stock dogs then, but yeah, you can definitely put too much on a dog, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And what about now, mate? These days, you're still running predominantly collies?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, all border collies.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about your current team?
Yeah, so I've got the older dogs. I've got a Bruton Vale Brutus. Then there's Diamantina Pearl. I've got Serrano Ike, and I've got, which is one of Peter Brown's breeds. I've got two of those at the moment. Yeah, I really like his breed. They're very got a lot of brains, like they're very switched on sort of dogs. Like you've got to be one step ahead of them because they're that sort of smart that they'll walk all over you. But got some good natural stock sense and instinct. and then it sort of gets into the dogs I've been breeding. Diamantina, Tandera, Danny, and I've got some litters out of her and out of Pearl. So I'm sort of starting to build up my own lines now, and line breeding now.
So
So I've sort of I've learned. Here you go.
no, that's all right. I was just going to say,
You're right.
you said you're line breeding. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Well, starting now, I've just found the dogs that I like, and now I'm sort of introducing those bloodlines in to make my own sort of line. Where I sort of learnt a fair bit about that sort of line breeding correctly. Peter Brown has certainly helped me out a lot in that respect. Put me onto some books that have been quite invaluable, and what he's done with his own breed. Like, he's been doing his breeding for 20 odd years or 30 years now. So, I've learnt quite a bit on, as in there's actually an art form in the line breeding properly. It's not just putting, this dog with this bitch and getting this. Like, whenever you, whatever traits you like, and when you start line breeding, like there's a percentage that you don't cross. It's like up to 25, probably your limit. And then also by doing that as well, you got to make sure when you're putting those relatives together that you got to understand when you're getting up to those high percentages that whatever you do is going to tenfold or more in the traits that you like. But if there's something in there that you don't like, that's going to do the same as well. So you really need to look at the good points and the bad points. So if there's something in there that you don't like, or whatever it is, it's going to amplify as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Pete, you mentioned Peter Brown there a couple of times. He gets pretty deep in whatever he does, doesn't he? Puts a lot of thought in the process.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I've read some of the books that he's put me onto, and I had to read them 3 times. It was just it's very in depth and pretty hard to sort of get your head around it. But on some of those stuffs, if you've got different lines, I think it's if you have 5 lines, you can basically breed on continuously, line breeding. If you have those sort of separate lines, but the way that you put them together, you can just keep line breeding. So it's sort of like when you're looking for an outcross, ideally you want that outcross to be line bred as much as the bitch that you're looking to breed to. That's how you get your strongest results and your consistency in your litter.
Yeah, 100%. I love my genetics, mate. I was just thinking a bit about that. And when you talked about traits and tenfolding, like what are some traits that a dog must have for yourself?
Well, I've changed my opinion a little bit. Like, I mean, the most things that like, I want temperament, and I want a dog like good temperament, and I want a dog that's going to try for me. I think that's probably one of the biggest things. If you can get a dog that wants to try for you, you can really bring out some things into that dog when he's trying for you. You get him to do his best, and at the end of the day, that's all you can ask for, is that dog to do his very best for you. And of course, there's other traits that I like, of course, but that one there, I think is the most important one, because if he's willing to try for you, you can get him to do a hell of a lot more.
Why do you think that is, though?
Well, they're so more willing to learn, and what you show them, they're just they're taking that on board. And of course, once you start using everything properly, and they're really enjoying what they're doing, yeah, you just see them fly along. Like you see the progress in them. They're just they. I like a dog with a lot of brains, of course. Like I am breeding for different traits. Like I want a dog that's got good walk up strength and that, but distance and feel and that. But yeah, you can work with that a fair bit too. It just that sort of thing makes your job easier, of course, having those good traits and stock sense. But yeah, if you got one with good brains and willing to try and a good temperament, yeah, I think you can do a lot with them when you've got that good. You tend to get that better bond with a dog that likes you and he wants to try and please you.
Yeah, absolutely. What is it? Why do you like breeding, mate? What is it that wants you to do? Why do you want to develop your own line?
Well, I suppose it's an achievement too. You're sculpting your breed and the dogs of your own. So I'm really trying to get that dog that tries for me and the brainy dog as well. So you're more likely to get what you want doing it that way than buying a pup. That's how it works for me anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you pick your own pups?
Well, to be honest with you, so when you start getting that consistency in your pups, you pretty much sort of know that they're all going to be reasonably consistent. So I basically now just look for the pup that picks me, that really likes me and levitates towards me. And yeah, you can pick that up, and it just comes to you. He's always there when you go to the pen, and he's the first one there to see you and greet you. And yeah, you can just sort of tell if he really likes you. I think that's a good start.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're like obviously you're wanting to breed and do all that, are you keeping a few pups from the litter?
Yeah. Well, see, I DNA test on my dogs as well, so I'm trying to create a clear line as well. So, as getting my own line of dogs, I want to have them a pretty clean DNA.
Yep.
Have you had? And that's pretty cool, man. And have you had any pushback from other um,
Breeders?
not so much breeders, like peers, I suppose, that have gone like, why have you bothered? Like, why do you bother DNA testing? Or have they been fairly supportive? Or what's been your experience there?
I don't really advertise what I do.
Yep.
I sort of keep my ideas to myself. Like, each to their own. I know a lot of people probably aren't DNA testing. Like, I think we got to look forwards. We need to start DNA testing because a lot of you don't know what you're breeding with. Otherwise, like, you sort of get a bit too wrapped up in that's a good dog. You like the dog. I don't want to know what DNA is because I might be able to breed from him.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll cull out all that sort of stuff. Like if I've got a dog that's only had one nut drop, I'll cut the dog because that's genetic. It's going to carry on, and I don't care if it's how good of a dog or it is. It doesn't matter. It'll get castrated.
Yeah. Yeah, which is fair enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I've got to sort of practice my creature, not that I preach it.
But if that's what you're chasing and wanting to do, then yeah, I understand why you're doing that and so forth. So how many would you be
Well,
keeping out of the litter then?
At the moment, I'll keep the clear ones for starters, and usually, sort of when you're doing a like 2 carriers, you'll probably only get 1 clear out of the litter, and then you'll get a certain amount of carriers, and then you'll get some infected. If they're infected, I'll desex them. So then, whoever that I sell that dog to, they can't carry on what I'm trying to
Stop.
achieve.
Yep.
Yeah, it just stops it.
Yeah, that's really responsible as well. And
Well, it's got to start from somewhere.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, mate. When you have your pups on the ground, is there a certain age you like to see something happening?
Well, I interact with the pups from day dot. Like they know my smell of me, and I'm from when they're born, and I handle them. I socialise them, and I watch them play. Like you'll soon get to know what it. I find whatever you see comes out in a pup will come out as a juvenile or adult. Just that if they're a stylish pup or how much confidence they got. If you see it as a pup, pretty much 9 times out of 10 it's going to come out. So I pretty much study them a lot when they're playing, or I'm looking for the one that's a bit of a whinger or whatever else, or how they play and how they react.
Yep. And what age would you put them on stock?
No earlier than 12 weeks. I want them big enough and fast enough to get to the head. Otherwise, I feel as if they're not fast enough to get to the head, they tend to chase the stock then, and then that comes frustrating if they're a dog that naturally goes to the head, and then you're just basically making the situation worse. They're chasing and they're actually trying to get to the head. But that's just my personal preference.
Yep. And have you got any like milestones where you like to see them doing things by particular ages, or you just go with the flow?
I sort of go with the flow. It, when I'm taking a pup in to round yard or paddock or whatever I'm doing, if they're giving me 1% each day, and I'm not going in there and doing the same lesson every single time, well, I'm happy with that. I'm happy with progress, whether it be only 1%. But if I get that 1% each time, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned around yard there, mate. What is your optimum training setup? What if you could have any training setup ever? Like, how would you set it up? Or if you have already got that?
Oh well, I got a round yard, square yard, yeah, a bit of everything. Because I want to be able to learn to dig them out of corners too.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to build them up first. You don't want to make it too hard at the start. So I tend to sort of just work on a fence line first, where I can sort of swing the sheep out, so I can create gaps for the pup to get down and build confidence.
Yep. And you mentioned like obviously you do a lot of cattle work. You mentioned sheep there. Is that just a training mob, or you work sheep as well? Or
No, pretty much just a training mob. Yeah, I'm a cattle farmer, not a sheep farmer.
yep. And when would you when do you start introducing your younger dogs to cattle?
When they're confident enough. Um, I just feel if you if they can't handle sheep and they don't have enough confidence to be able to walk up to a ewe or a sheep of any sort and not be able to squeeze down and make their own room in between a fence and dig them out of a corner, and to be able to walk up, they're not ready to go onto something that's 5 times the size of them.
Yeah. You're putting a lot of.
I don't rush anything.
Sorry. Yeah. Don't rush anything.
No,
you
you're
said?
right. No, yeah, that's right. I don't. I used to. Don't get me wrong. I used to. I've been there and done that, but I not just I want my dogs to progress. I want to progress as well. So I'm always thinking about what I'm doing and how can I bring out the best in the dog. And I feel like with myself that in the past I've rushed things too much and you skip too many steps. Why you shouldn't move on to the next step before you got the first step perfect.
You obviously put a lot of thought into the development of your younger dogs. When was the light bulb moment for you when you started to think this way? Was it prior to Jamie or?
Probably no. Pretty the light bulb's been coming on a fair bit since I've had dealings with Joni. That's for sure. Like I've had the light bulb will come on every so often before then, but yeah, the switch is getting a bit wearing out a fair bit now.
Yeah. And are you still always evolving, like yourself, with that and changing or trying different things?
Right. Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely evolving all the time. Like when, like I was saying before, when you're doing that sort of, you're doing the using those tools or doing a technique or drill or whatever you want to call it, and you start refining and reading that dog, and you're sort of really seeing the progress that you're getting out of that dog, and you're seeing just flourish in what he's doing and the confidence, and yeah, it gives you a real buzz, and I get a big kick out of that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. What advice would you give to someone wanting to purchase their first dog or a pup?
Definitely look at the parents working. Like if I sell a pup, I'll always show the parents working, and recently the litter of pups I had, I could show the grandparents as well. So you're going to get a pretty good idea from the pups if you can see 2 generations working. And if someone doesn't want to show you them working, well, I'd steer away from it. And you can see the temperaments of the dog and how calm they are, and you pretty much got a good leg up anyway when you can see the generations in front working.
Yeah. So you mentioned you've changed a fair bit since going over to the States. Is there anything that you could say has been the most, like not the most, that sounds really dumb. The biggest thing that you've changed, like if you could put it all down to one thing that you come home and went, no, I'm not doing that anymore, I'm doing this, what would that be? Or is there even that?
It's probably not what I'd done. It's probably more so how I do it, and gaining more tools and stuff to what I done previously as well. But how you do it, there's a big difference between making a dog do what you want to do than what there is to showing a dog your idea and making it his idea. Once you do that, you can, it's a light bulb. You can see when they get it, and their confidence is just like, yeah, there you go. Because you've read the dog, you've put all that pressure release, you've done your timing, it's feel. And when you get all that together, and yeah, it's just, that's when you start seeing the difference of the dog.
Yeah.
and you see them flourish in your, that bond, and you take them out of that training yard, and you see the attitude change between you and your dog. He's come out of that pen and just gone, shit, that was great, boss. Wasn't that a good session? And that's a kicker for me when I've done that with my dog, and he's just going, oh, I can't wait for tomorrow.
Yeah, mate. Basically, you're making him what you find desirable. You're making it really easy for him to achieve. So that way he's making those decisions rather than like, and I talk about this with I suppose my clients all the time, like pulling a dog around on a tight lead is just a dog on a tight lead. It's not learning anything. But if you can just like tug or pulse that lead forwards and he comes into that pressure and he makes that decision, well, he's more likely to make that decision.
Yeah.
And you're not making the decision for him. So he's actually going to learn from it. Right? And you're ultimately
definitely.
the same thing.
And even that starts back when they're a pup too, and you've got them on a lead. Like, I tend now to, like, if a dog's pulling on a lead, you got to have a bit of compassion for a dog too. Like, you got a pup, you put a rope on his neck. Now, there's quite a few of them. They freak out, and it's like a kite on a piece of string. I tend to give. I do pressure release on that. I give to that dog until and once he takes that pressure off, I release, and you can see it in them, like they're going to release that pressure, gives him a chance to think, and then you apply a little bit more pressure. And that might happen a few times, but when you show that pressure release and compassion to them, it doesn't take long to break them to a lead. Like, I can do it in probably maybe 2-3 sessions, and they're only about a couple of minutes, if that. And rather than fighting the dog and making it a bad experience, because they remember that. Whatever you do at the start will make the foundation on that dog, and they won't forget. So you don't want them to have a bad experience.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Do you do any dry work other than just teaching a dog to walk on a lead there? Do you do any dry work with your pups to start preparing them for stock work?
Yeah, well, pretty much sort of. It depends on the dog too. Some dogs will take to dry work and others won't. Like, there has been other dogs that enjoy sort of doing that dry work, and there's other dogs that just go, no. So I don't force that upon them at all. It's not really a big thing, but I have done little bits of it in the past. Yeah.
Mate, do you like a team of similar dogs, or do you like a bit of variety within your pack?
I don't mind a bit of variety. See, I sort of changed a bit, as in, I don't hold my dogs back a real lot anymore either. Like, I find, like, you got to know when to put control on your dog and when to release it. Like, if you control your dog too much, then he doesn't want to take control. But if you let your dog have too much control, then he doesn't want to give it up either. So I do like a dog, if I'm going out mustering, that I used to have them all walk behind me, and I was a bit too fanatical on that. And then what you find is you never get that dog that'll go out and look for cattle either, because they've always been called back to you. And when you used to go out and mustering other people, you try and keep that mustering etiquette where you don't go into another man's position on the mob, and you're calling dogs back. I just found it ends up wrecking a dog, because you're so worried about not letting that dog go into old mate's position at the tail or the wing. I sort of don't get that much now because I work by myself. But when you're letting that dog go off and he's sort of going out a bit wide and he sees cattle, and you can sort of start teaching your dogs to go find cattle then, and and then those other dogs that probably don't do that as much, you can send them off in another direction and leave a couple behind with yourself. And they'll go a lot further as well. Like if something takes off, they'll just keep going until they get it. But if you're always calling your dog back, they'll get to a certain distance and pull up and go, oh, we better go back because we'll get into trouble.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if we really spoke about what you're doing these days. Like you said, you were working
No, we do actually touch on that.
in a team there before, but what are you doing these days? What's your day-to-day sort of job with your dogs?
Yeah, I do my trainings either in the morning or afternoon. But if we're not training or working, I take my dogs with me whenever I can and wherever I can. Like if I'm going somewhere, I'll pole them in the ute or fencing or something like that. They'll be with me. Pretty much as I go somewhere and I can have dogs, they'll be there with me.
Yeah.
And that's on your own property, mate?
Yeah.
And what are you doing on your property, mate? Like, what are your breeders or?
Breeders, and I grow the progeny out to feeders.
Yep.
Cool. How big a place you on there?
Oh, it's not a real big place, but there's enough cattle on there to sort of keep me employed and pay the bank and all the bills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
it's great.
Beautiful, mate. I was going to say, mate, who were some of the most influential dogs to get you to where you are today?
Influential dogs. Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. As in other people's dogs, or
like your own dog.
Yeah, either really.
Through, or somebody else's dog that you went, love to own that one.
Oh, look, no, my own dogs, it'd have to be Brutus and Ike. They're my go-to dogs. Like, I've been able to get them to do some pretty cool. Wish I knew more when I first started them. Like, but I can cast those dogs. Like Ike, he's I've taught them to go find sheep, so they'll go find stock. So I put a bell on the sheep, and they get to know that noise, and those old bells, you can hear them for miles. And you do it at a closer distance, and then you start increasing your distance. But you be walking along and you stop and you're trying to hear these bells, and they get to know and they stop with you and they're listening. And then when you hear that they've picked up that bell, you can say, go find the sheep. And they could be going a kilometre or whatever, and they'll find those sheep. Like, I like a brainy dog that'll pick up on that. Like, you can't get all dogs to sort of do that. So I do like a brainy dog that I can challenge them and think for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And has there been a dog that you've seen somebody else own and thought, geez, like that's a pretty handy dog?
Or even a dog that's popped up in your pedigrees that you keep wanting to breed back to or something.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, I can tell you some dogs that I would have loved to have. They're pretty much gone now. There's a fella, Les Armstrong, Alphadale dog. They were phenomenal, especially Sadie. Now, I'm fortunate enough to have a video of Les, and some of this footage goes back to 1984 or 3, I think. And that Sadie, look, I haven't seen every dog in the world work, but I haven't seen anything that's like her. That bitch, she would move side to side, up and down, and back and forth all at the same time. Like, the feel of her was just phenomenal. And what he could get his dogs to do. Like Les was an old bachelor, so he spent a lot of time with his dogs. He it was quite phenomenal. There's actually a clip in there that there was like a 2-day-old chick, and there was an old, like say a baked bean can on the ground on its side, and that dog actually mustered that chick into the can.
Chicken in a can.
Like that's like that. You know how flighty a little chicken is, like a 2-day-old chick. Yeah, it's pretty
is pretty
impressive.
cool.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And he would have like probably, I don't know, 10 dogs, and he would get those dogs to sit around in a circle, like make an arena, and then he'd send one dog out into the paddock, and he'd go get the sheep, and then that dog would bring the sheep in, and where that gap was, he would bring that sheep into that gap, and then that dog would work that sheep in that round circle, which was made by other dogs.
Yeah.
And then he could sit that dog, grab the next dog, and start working them. That's pretty good control.
He used to do shows and stuff with his dogs, didn't he?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I've heard stories. He's won a lot. I think.
You go.
Yeah, I think on there he won. He won. I think it was. And correct me on the numbers, but I think I might be 1 or 2 out. But there's something like 215 open sheepdog trials and 105 open cattle dog trials.
Yeah, wow. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know it's up there with something like that.
With the same dogs as well?
Yeah. Yeah, with his line of dogs, yeah.
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 Yeah, I've heard stories you can line them up in a straight line and weave dogs in and out of the other dogs and then tell that dog to sit down and get the dog to do the same thing and come back to the other dog's spot or its spot. And some pretty cool stuff that he can do.
Correct. He would actually do that dog in reverse. So it wasn't going forwards, it would be in reverse. So when he had have those dogs in a line, that dog would be weaving in and out, going backwards.
Yeah.
There's for that much dedication, like those dogs have been his whole life. Like to put that much time and effort in them.
Oh yeah, well
yeah.
Oh, definitely. You could only have them like that if you're a bachelor.
Yeah. I won't get.
You know what I'm talking about.
A couple of misses is just a couple of rooms away. That's
that's it.
A bit less arguments, right? But geez, spend some time with his dogs.
Yeah.
It'd be a pretty cool connection. Like obviously they would have his dog. Oh, that'd be amazing to watch.
Oh yeah, he's definitely.
So if you
that were his life, you know that's.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're right.
No, I was just gonna say if you wanted to chase those lines now, where would you go?
Well, I got a bit in the background, but obviously I got that from Peter Brown. Mm-hmm. He's got that in his lines. But yeah, a lot of it's dying out. There's it's sort of that they were sort of forgotten, I suppose, or because Les he was right into line breeding and he knew what he was doing. So a lot of those dogs too go back to Princey's. He had some of his as well, I think. But yeah, Peter has got a couple of dogs there that it's not that far back. Might be great grandparents or something like that, or great grandparents. But most of it's probably back 6 or 5 generations now or more, sort of thing. But he definitely had that in his foresight.
Yeah, wow, that's cool. But have you done a lot of trialing yourself?
Yeah, I have been sort of probably more so the last couple of years, I've been doing it a bit more, I suppose.
Yeah, and is that cattle dog trialing or other forms?
Yeah, mainly sort of cattle dog trialing up this way, sort of central Queensland, sort of going down more south and out west. I think they'll have sheepdog trials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wouldn't mind having a tackle at that one day, but yeah, it'd
And
be
why
good to
that?
have a dog that. I reckon it'd be a great challenge to have a versatile dog that you could do cattle and sheep.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely,
You
mate.
know,
And
that's
what is it
sort of
about trialing that? Sorry, keep going, mate.
No, I was just saying, well, that'd be the ultimate, really, is having a dog that's, I suppose, heavy enough for cattle, but light enough for sheep.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And what is it about trialing that you enjoy?
Probably the challenge of making your dogs get around the course as sort of the best that they can, and as correct as you can get them around. Yeah, bring out the best in your dog, or have your dog doing its best.
Yeah. What about you're obviously using the same dogs of work that you're trialing with, and like I can't speak for
Yep.
cattle dog trialing, right? Is cattle dog trialing still up in central Queensland, still simulating some real work environments?
Oh, well,
Well, what
yes and
benefits?
no.
What,
Like,
actually, I'll ask it different. What benefits from trialing would you get in your stock handling?
oh well, I suppose you got to have control of your dogs to do to cattle dog trialing. There's no doubt. That's for sure. But for me, I wouldn't have a trial dog that wasn't a working dog. If he can't hold his own in the paddock, he's not even going to be a trial dog. Or if he's, oh, that they got to do both. I mean, they don't have to do both. He has to be a good work dog first. Not, or he's a good trial dog, but he's not a good work dog. I won't have that.
Yep.
That's cool. Do you have a favourite trial you like to go to?
Well, I'm sort of Rockland Springs is pretty good, and actually Gary went up at Rockhampton there. Ray White, he has a good turnout there, which is getting bigger and bigger each year, and they have a working dog auction at the end of it. And this year it's in conjunction with Beef Week. And yeah, it's getting pretty big, and got some good trials going, and sire shootout, and I think the new is like a dam, I think it's called. And there, because you're sort of it's sort of getting a bit, it's more challenging too, so it's not affiliated with the Working Dog Society. So, you know, he's able to mix the course up a bit and make it a bit harder and a bit more challenging, which I like. You know, I'd like to see it go and make it more challenging, because there's some good handlers coming through now, and you know, like to get into a final, you got to have big scores, and there's so many people getting there. So I believe you need to up the ante a bit. If there's that many people with high scores, well, we need to start making it more harder. That's my view.
Any ideas on how to do that?
Yeah, I got a few. Like putting the pen back into arena, make your arenas bigger too.
I love the sound.
Sorry.
I'd like to see a pen in the arena rather than I've only done a handful of cattle trials. Like you can kind of use your fence to steer your cattle, but most of the time the cattle are already looking for your put away anyways. The ones I've been
Definitely.
at, but I'd like to see a pen in the middle where you actually have to work for it a little bit harder. And that's as a judge in yard trialing, finding somewhere to take points sometimes in trials is a bit hard, and not everyone can run around on a 95, 96, 97, 98. So something like that helps find more points.
Yeah, definitely. Make it more of a challenge, and also I'd like to see, even at least in the final, change the course, because as you're starting to get rerun cattle, they know the course, they walk the course, so mix it up a bit, so at least in a final, alter the course, so because if you're lucky enough to get 3 good head, they're walking the course for you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And mate, do you have a special moment or an achievement that rings for you in the trialing arena?
Look, I haven't. I think I've only had the one maiden win. Been in a few finals and stuff like. I've had places and stuff, but the one maiden win and got into finals and that. But hoping to sort of build on that, of course. But at the moment I'm sort of really enjoying the journey of bettering me dogs at the moment. So hopefully that comes out later on. But all well and good if it does or doesn't.
No, that's cool. Is there any advice you'd give to someone that wanted to pursue a career in the livestock industry?
Basically, get out there and have a go. Like, I think more so than anything in any industry now, whether it be the rural or not, is that don't think the world owes you something. This is with the younger generation. Don't think the world owes you something. Make your own. A bit of hard work never killed anyone. Like, I just sort of see it a bit more. It sort of gets on me a bit, to be honest. Like, it's not hard to have a go and have good manners. Now I just find these days, like, people say to me, man, of kids and they can have a go. Well, that used to be normal, but now it just stands out. Like, it shouldn't, just normal, and the person that doesn't have a go is the ones that stand out. So yeah, my advice is to just get out there and have a bloody go and don't be a sook.
Great advice, mate. Love it. Rings true with me. Mate, is there someone you'd like us to sit down and have a chat with on Dog Talk?
It would be pretty good. He's a pretty handy dog trial.
Yeah, you better get him, Jeff.
Yeah, I can have a go. I take it you've already tried.
I have. I've had a little chat with him, but more people to get in people's ear, the better. Just slowly talk him into it.
Yeah. I might be able to rustle up some people from America.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. Yep. If you could sort some of that out for us, mate. That'd be great.
Yeah. No worries at all. Because their trialing's different, like, to ours. They're sort of more on a trial, time-based sort of trial, and obviously they can do crosses and stuff like that and drive the cattle, and they actually there's more stockmanship in theirs too, where they got to work the cattle as well in different obstacles, and those obstacles change each day as well. Like the trial that I went to anyway, and some of them got pretty hard too. Like, it really brought out not just the dog, but the stockmanship at the handler too.
Yeah, righto.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember watching one last year and watching them like drive up, and then they loaded the float and then popped the cattle out the front of the float, and it was like really cool to watch. And watching the handler move around, and even penning them, the handler could help pen with the dog. And like at work, you're not going to stand at the end of the gate and wait there, right? You're going to start swinging the gate and using your body as well to help.
Well, that's right. Well, think about it. Like if you're out mustering or working the yards, you're helping the dog, aren't you? For me, that's more practical stock work because, you're not making the dog do everything. You're helping him out as well. Like, I use my dogs in the yard. Leave my gates most of the time. I leave my gates open if I've got my dogs in there. We're working together. I'd really like to see more stockmanship in there. It's practical. It's what we do. You don't just, the dog doesn't do it. He does a lot, don't get me wrong, but I'm there to help him out because it's a partnership as well, and it's showing off your skills of reading the stock as well.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
As always, we've sort of got that one last question for the night. Would you rather fight one duck the size of a horse or 20 horses the size of ducks, and why?
Well, I reckon I'd go the duck the size of a horse because I don't know if you ever had smoked duck before, but it's pretty tasty, and I reckon I get a few fillets out of it. and also that, and those feathers and down on that duck can give you a pretty good jumper too.
Yeah, it would actually. I hadn't thought of it for the jumper.
Like water off a duck's back.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Nay, thank you very much for your time tonight. Much appreciated. Love your how deep you dive into your dogs and your thinking. Very, very much appreciate you giving us some time.
No, thank you very much for inviting me. It's been great. I appreciate it. It's been good.
You're more than welcome, mate. And to everyone listening either live tonight or listening back, thank you for your time. And please remember, we learn every day. And the day we stop learning from each other will be a sad one.
Thank you.
Thank you.